Hello everyone, this is General Hand Grenade. Welcome to my war room in Prince George, British Columbia. Today's video is on strategy. Not just a strategy in particular, like what you're looking at on the board right now is a strategy that I'm developing for Germany, but it's not going to be on that strategy. That's going to be my next video. I just have the board set up for that. But what this video is going to be on is building a global war strategy, because a lot of us came from the Axis and Allies game, and in that game strategies are a lot easier to build. You know, like things like movement. You know, a tank goes 2 spaces, doesn't matter where it is, as long as nothing gets in the way, that tank's going to go 2 spaces, right? But not so in this game and on this map. There's a lot more things to consider in a global war strategy, and so that's what this video is about, on how to build a strategy for this game, Global War 1936. And I would imagine that, you know, like you could extrapolate that and use it with some of the other Global War games that'll be coming out in the future. Although, you know, some of the details are going to be slightly different because some of the game mechanics are going to be different. So let's get started, shall we? The first thing you want to do is set goals. So with your objectives, what is my idea? Like you have to come up with an idea. Now this could be a grand idea, like this strategy that you're looking at that I'm going to build here. That is on the beginning of the game. It's going to be the first, say, 6 or 7 turns of the game for Germany. So it's going to be a pretty extensive plan, but it could be as simple as, you know, I'm going to go and take this one country, so what do I need to do it? So it could be just a small strategy that, you know, like you don't necessarily have to spend a lot of time planning out. It could just be something that's going to take a little bit of time. It could be something that is just going to take you, you know, just in your head, just a couple of minutes to think about. Maybe not even a couple of minutes. It's just you look at it, you say, okay, this is what I'm going to need. This is how much money I have, and then I'm going to go do it. But, you know, on the complex plans, you're going to need to do a little bit more research into the rules and stuff like that. But we'll get to that in a minute. And then the other thing is, you want a plan B. So what happens if this doesn't work out? You know, then what am I going to do? Like I talked about here, this is going to be a 6 or 7 turn strategy. Well, what happens if I get 4 turns in, things are not going my way, or something else happens in the game, somebody else does something that derails my strategy? You know, like where am I going to go from there? So think about those kind of things. This is what I want to do, but if it doesn't work out, this is how I can transition into something that's not a total disaster. And then also you need to set your timeline. Like, do you have enough time to accomplish the plan that you're, or the goals that you're going to take? And then there's the timeline. So you have to decide, do I have enough time to accomplish my goals? Like if your goal is to get a certain victory point, then you have to look at that. Okay, well, I'm this far away from getting that, or I need this many units. Like there's a point, for instance, that the British can get to have more capital ships in the Mediterranean than the Italians. Do you have enough time left to buy that many ships and sail them to the Mediterranean, because you need to put them in at your home country and you need to get them down there? Like you might have to buy fast battleships as opposed to just regular battleships, just so they can get there on time. And is the timing critical? Because, you know, it might be that that you have, you know, between 5 and 8 turns to get it done, right? You know, it might not be that critical that you get it done in a certain amount of time, right? You might just, okay, I need to do this in the first half of the game or whatever. Or you might need to do it this turn. You know what I mean? It's like, if I don't get that guy this turn, then I'm sunk. You know what I mean? So you have to decide these things. You have to set your goals, and you have to decide, how much time do I have to accomplish this? so you've got your idea. You're playing, let's say you're playing Japan here. And then you say, okay, I'd like to take the Dutch islands, or I'd like to take China, or whatever it is your plan is going to take. Maybe it is that you want to go across the Pacific Ocean and you want to attack the American fleet with your surprise strike. Whatever your plan is, and how much time, like you've worked it out, how much time you need to do and everything. Then, you work out the details of that and what you're going to need to do it, right? So the next thing you ask yourself is, can I do this? Is it legal for me to do this? So you have to research each action that you have to take. With movement, I mentioned movement a minute ago. So what kind of terrain are you going to deal with in everything? Not just in, moving this guy here, but let's say it's a complex strategy that takes a number of turns and you're using all of your pieces for Japan here. How many sea zones away am I? Is it mountain terrain that I need to go into? Are there straits and canals that I need to go through? And if so, what do I need to do to be able to go through there? Who owns those things? That leads to politics, right? Who's involved with this? Who am I attacking? Who do I need to rely on to do this? Who owns that strait or canal? Are they neutral? Am I neutral? Are they my enemy, or are they my ally? All these kinds of questions you need to answer. You need to research. I need to go this route. I need to go through this canal. I need to cross this desert. So you have to research everything and find out what it's going to take for you to get there, because you don't want to get 3 turns into a 5-turn strategy and find out I can't do that, or you're in the middle of doing it and your opponent says, oh, you can't do that, and then your whole strategy hinged on you doing that, that one thing that you never looked at, whatever that was, right? And so you need to research everything that you need to do, including the blitzing. You need to understand how all the game mechanics work, screening forces, right? You need to know exactly how these things work and in what context these things work, right? Because these things are different. You don't need to use a screening force if you're not at war with somebody. I was playing a game with somebody recently, and so I thought that I was going to have to do a screening force and take out the units in Hawaii there before I moved on and took out the fleet in San Francisco. But I didn't need to do that because I wasn't at war with them yet. So all I needed to do was sail through Hawaii, pass their units, get there, and then declare war on them. But in that way, I saved myself a lot of pain, right? I saved myself a lot of units. But these are the things that you need to do. You need to research everything that you need to do, and also things like lend-lease. Can I lend lease to somebody, or can somebody lend lease to me? Don't just think, okay, well, I'll do this and I'll just get Germany to lend lease this to me. Is Germany allowed to lend lease to you? You got to research these things, because Germany can lend lease to a nation that is at war with somebody, but they couldn't lend lease to Italy if Italy hasn't declared war on anybody yet. So it might be that you need to declare war on somebody on the 3rd turn of your 6-turn strategy in order for you to receive that lend lease. Also, you need to know what is your rail capacity. Scrambling, you don't want to get there with all your units and then your opponent scrambles and I never thought about the scrambling part. Well, this sucks, because it's already too late. You've already done your combat moves and you're about ready to roll the dice, and then your opponent says, wait a minute, I'm going to scramble, So these are things you have to worry about. And then what are the facilities involved, right? It could be that by you attacking a naval base, or bombing a naval base, that you have now surrounded that city, right? Or if you attack the air base inside of a city, and you've surrounded it, now it's out of supply, and now the units are -1. So it depends on what the facilities are, because you might need to upgrade a minor naval base into a major naval base in order for you to go enough spaces to get to where you need to be on a particular turn, right? So that's when you get down with the rule book and determine whether or not these things that you want to do are legal, right? So like I said, you map out everything that you need to do. And this is why if you're doing a complex strategy, that I recommend that you do that ahead of time. You know, you're playing a game this weekend, write it down. Okay, this is what I'd like to do. And so I'm going to need to do this and this and this and this. So go through the rule book. Can I do that? Can that guy lend lease to me? Can I go through the straight? You know, can I blitz in this situation? All these things that you need to do, make sure that you understand the rules, and you will become a better player if you do this. You're not sitting there at the table and asking people, can I do this, or am I allowed to go there? Or, you know, you've already found out that you can, and because you've been through the rule book 100 times, building all of these strategies that you're going to build, then you understand the rules a lot better, and it's going to make you a better player, more so than in a lot of games that you've played, because there is so many rules to this game, and they are so very particular in what you can do and how you can do it and when you can do it, right? Research everything and determine if they're legal or not. Be aware, like if you, like I said, you get 3 turns into a 5-turn strategy and you try to move through that straight and they go, you can't do that. Well, now what are you going to do, right? So you can see here an example of me researching ahead of time. I've got my rule book out. I've got all of the reference sheets because, you know, it depends. Like with me building my strategy for Germany, I want to make sure that I'm going through my Germany sheet, right? And my France sheet, if France is involved. I need to know what's going to happen with the Americans, the British, anybody, and also neutrals. Don't forget about the neutrals, right? Like you go to the last page of the neutrals, and it talks about, okay, in 1940, this is going down on Slovakia, so you kind of need to attack them before then, or they're going to have another unit there. And that doesn't mean you can't attack them or whatever. It just means you better get on your horse and do it quickly, or it's going to be more difficult for you. So so you've mapped everything out, and this is an example. Like I'm using these task force markers, and I'm not going to tell you what they are. I'm going to get into that in the next video, but suffice it to say that each turn has its own build on it, right? And they're not all in order right now. I just sat them there just to confuse you, but that's what I'm talking about. You can do this, you can write it down. I actually wrote it down first, and then I came in here and ran it, started scribbling all over my notes, because thinking about it without looking at the board is not quite the same thing. And then as you start to roll things when you're trying to get through it, then you realize, okay, I'm going to need more over here and less over there, and things like that, right? So the next thing you need to know is what are the consequences of my actions? You know, like there's 2 things. There's the penalties, and then there's the positive things, because this game, a lot of this game is built around consequences. There's not too many places in the book where it tells you, you can't do this. You know what I mean? It doesn't say, you know, America must enter the war on this turn. It just, you know, like there's consequences. America builds for war depending on what's going on in the game and things like that. It's the consequences that you need to weigh when you're building your strategy, right? So like the penalties, providing income increases and bonuses to your opponents. Say I want to attack France with the Germans. Well, that's going to give the Americans a 5 IPP bonus in their income, right? Or an increase in their peacetime income. That might be something that I can live with, but at least I know what the consequence is. The other, you know, on the other hand, if Japan wants to attack the Commonwealth, well, that's a 5D12 increase to the Americans. So that might not be something I want to do, depending on the timing, right? Like if the Americans are already at 50 IPP income level, they need to get to 63, then 5 dice isn't that big a deal, right? But if they're only at 15 and I give them 5 dice, well, that's going to get them perhaps right near the point where they can declare war on Japan. So that's something that I need to be aware of, is those kind of consequences. And also, it's not just about that. It could be about what actions can they take against you or your allies, right? Especially the Americans, they have at a certain income level, they can do one thing. And then they get to the next income level, and then they can do more. And the next income level, they can do even more than that, right? And then also, it could change the nature of your relationship, or the nature of that nation's relationship to the game, right? Whether they are at war, whether they're at peace, whether they're neutral to you. Talked about straits and canals earlier. You can go through them when they're neutral, right? You can go through them if you're at peace with that nation and they're at war with somebody else, but you can't go through them if you're at war with them, right? So these are the kind of consequences that you need to be aware of. You don't want to provoke somebody to the point that you can't accomplish what you want to do. But then there are also positive consequences to the actions that you take during your strategy, right? It could give you more income. It could give you bonus income. Like if Germany acquires Romania, for instance, not only do they get the 3 IPP for Romania, but it's also a bonus of 3 IPP. On the other hand, if the Russians go and take that territory, well, then that's 3 IPP to them, and they're denying Germany a 3 IPP bonus, right? So that could be a positive for both of those nations if they were to take Romania. It could be that you're picking up some victory points by doing that. This is worth a point. So your plan is to go get it, and that gives you a victory point. That's pretty simple, right? It could relieve pressure on your allies, or even somebody that's your temporary ally. Remember famously that Stalin begged or demanded the Western allies open up another front against Germany in the West, because that would relieve pressure in the East, right? But that's something that you can do for a temporary ally, or it's something that you can do for one of your allies. You attack somebody over on this other flank, well, now they have to turn around. They were about to squish somebody, but now they've got to turn around and go and put out that other fire, right? And also, it could provide increased access to you or your allies to areas of the map that you're not currently able to get, right? Like, for instance, here, let's just move the camera just slightly. Here's Denmark. The allies aren't allowed to get in here, right? But if the allies were to take Denmark, well, now they can sail through the Danish Straits, right? And so now they have access to the Baltic Sea. So that's something that's pretty simple. But again, you have to weigh the consequences of that, right? If America's not at war yet, then not only are the Allies going to have to pay 10 IPP to attack a minor power like Denmark, but the Americans are going to get that -8 to their peacetime income. If the Americans are already at war, then that isn't a factor, right? But again, you need to research to find that out. You need to make sure that you understand all of the rules to the game and all of the consequences of your actions, both positive and negative, so that you can weigh those. So you've checked it out and you've got your idea and you've researched it to find out whether or not you can do it, right? And you're aware of the consequences, and then now you have to take a look at your available resources to see if you have the resources to do it, or what resources you're going to need in order to accomplish your plan. So you take a look at your current income and your IPPs that you've saved, the units that you have on the board, or the ones that you are going to be able to put on during the duration of this operation that you've decided on. The income increases over the course of the operation because, of course, that's going to allow you to purchase those units. So, like, you might not have all the money that you need, but well, if I just go over here and take this nation, or get that bonus, well, now I'll have enough money to buy the amount of subs that I need to to convoy, or whatever your plan is, right? You get these increases through territory that you acquire or that you annex, like Germany annexes territories, right? It could be from bonus income, like I mentioned, and it could be from income rolls, and that would be the Russians or the Allies that get those income rolls, right? The Axis don't have income rolls like that. The other thing is technology. So what would be really helpful in your efforts to win the game, and also to help move the game along a lot faster, is to make a list of the technologies ahead of time before you play the game. What are you going to be researching, rather than just get to the third turn and go, well, I don't know. We make a point when in our games of specifying ahead of time what nations we're going to be playing. I'm going to be the Allies, you're going to be the Axis, you're going to be the Comintern. Like, we all know who we're going to be playing. Then we can sort of plan things out. We can read those reference sheets, make sure we understand perfectly, but also we can think about what we might want to do for strategy. And one of the things that would help move the game along a lot faster if we made a list of the technology that we want to develop during that game. So with each nation, it's going to be different, right? I mean, one nation might want to go for some technology, another nation that would be completely useless. Advanced ASW, that would be one of the best things that the British could get. However, what are the Russians going to do with that? They've got a one convoy line that isn't worth any money. So that's not going to do them any good, right? Their list is going to be different than the British list, and both of their lists are going to be different than the German lists. Now, when I was putting together my German strategy, and it's a beginning of the game strategy, I knew how many dice I needed, right? How many dice I had. I've got the extra dice, I've got 3 major factories, and there's another major factory that I could upgrade if I want, so I could have as many as 5 dice. I know I'm going to have 4, I could have as many as 5. And there's 16 technologies. So what I did was, okay, what are my top 4 technologies? What are the best 4 technologies for the Germans to go for, in my mind, right? And so I made a list of those 4, and then okay, what are the least technologies that are going to help me? What is the last 4 things that I wanted? So that made it a little bit easier by getting the 4 that I really wanted, and the 4s that I was not going to, even if I got there, I wasn't going to develop them, right? I just say, okay, I'm just going to go now. We've only got 2 turns left, and I don't need any more technology, right? So that made it easier. Then there was 8 in the middle, right? And so that's where it got a little bit tougher, like what's number 5, what's number 6, what's number 7, right? These things could be interchangeable. But once I got the first 4, though, so I had those 4 guaranteed dice. I knew, okay, once I got to stage 2 on any one of those, then number 5 comes into play. Then I got stage 2 on 2 of those, then number 6 comes into play. And so right away, you're rolling the dice really fast. All you got to do is look at your plan, and you know exactly what you're rolling for. You've already considered it for a while. You didn't sit there and think about it, and then, oh, geez, he made a snap decision. If I was really thinking about it, I would have went for this one instead, right? So you know what you're going to do about your technology. And then, once you get down around 6, 7, 8, then you can take a look at the game, because it's going to take you a while to get there, right? So where's the game going? Like, I made this list last week, but, the game is not going the way I thought it would. So maybe this one here should go from number 12 to number 8. Maybe number 8's not important anymore. Maybe I'll put that at number 12, or number 11. You can adjust things as you're going, but the first 4 you probably aren't going to adjust, right? And the first, even the 5 or 6 are going to be really important to you. But that's just Germany. And America's got lots of dice too. So the Americans, you're choosing a bunch of them as well. But for other people though, like for Italy, for instance, Italy only gets 1 die. Right? So you're probably just going to pick the one that you really want, and maybe 2 or 3, right? And then you need to consider, okay, Germany, if Italy's at war, can lend lease some of these units, so maybe Italy doesn't need to research weapons like jet fighters or heavy armor. Those items can come from Germany. What Italy really needs is wartime economy, improved construction, the kind of thing like radar, the kind of things that are technologies and not units, right? That's just a quirk of Italy, Germany, and their relationship, right? And then Japan isn't really going to be able to share between them, but yet they don't have very many. And so maybe the biggest question you have with Japan is, should I be upgrading my factories, or should I be adding more factories to get more technology? And it depends, because that's going to cost you money. Do I want that, or do I want transports with dudes on them? So there's a lot to consider about technology, and it'd be helpful if you plan that out ahead of time, right? Okay, so you got your idea. You know what you want to do. You set yourself some goals. You've done your due diligence so far. You've checked through the rule book and all the reference sheets and made sure that what you want to do is legal. You're able to accomplish those. And so then you get to the point, you've done all that work and everything. Now ask yourself, is this a good idea? So now you have to start measuring the risks versus the rewards. So add up all the money, that you're going to get from doing whatever it is you're going to do. Add up the value of everything, the pluses and the minuses, right? So is the difference negative? Well, then it's not such a good idea, probably, right? Or is it negligible? Like you're going to spend 6 turns doing something, but in the end, you're only going to be up 2 IPP. That's all you're getting out of this. No victory points. You're just going up 2 IPP. And you haven't hurt your opponent very badly. So was it a good idea, right? But that doesn't mean that there isn't. Like, is there an intangible factor that you can't measure in IPPs? Like, it might cost you 75 IPPs to take out their navy that's only worth 50 IPPs, but it could be that the only way they can hurt you is with their transports. Like they're an island nation, and if they Marines on transports and they could come over and attack you, that's the only way they could really hurt you. So maybe that's an intangible factor. It's going to cost you, maybe it looks like a little bit too much to thwart them, but if you've taken away their only avenue to hurting you, then that's an intangible that maybe you can't measure. And there's a lot of intangibles. I mean, we could sit here and talk about those all day, right? But just to, ask yourself, is this a good idea? So if the money doesn't add up, then why am I doing it? Is there an intangible factor here that is going to make sense to me, right? And then what are your chances of actually accomplishing your goals? If your strategy relies on you attacking their navy with 5 subs, and you're going to be okay as long as 4 of them roll ones and you can use the target selection on them, well, that's probably not going to be a very viable strategy, right? You have to get 4 roll 4 ones out of 5. That's something that you can hope for, but I wouldn't base your whole strategy on that. Like whether or not you're going to win this game on whether or not you can actually hit 4 out of 5 ones, right? On the other hand, like if it's the last turn and like that's the only way you're going to win this game is to take those 5 subs in there, and you're going to have to roll 4 ones, then absolutely go for it, right? But on the second turn of the game, maybe that's not the best idea, right? And the other thing you have to ask yourself when you're asking yourself, is this a good idea? Even if it's going to get you lots of money or whatever, chicks are going to want you. I don't know what you're going to get out of it, but will it enhance my ability to win the game? Because if it isn't, then what's the point, right? So can you gain or increase your alliance's chance of gaining victory points? Remember, it's not just your victory points that you're going after. It could be the Americans going after the Italian Navy so that the British will have more capital ships in the Mediterranean than the Italians do, right? That's an example I brought up earlier. So things like that, right? I mean, you can gain points for your allies and not just for yourself. On the other hand, will it harm my opponent's chances of gaining victory points? Obviously, that one's pretty easy to map out, right? Like Germany gets a point if they have that country, so all I got to do is go take that country off them. That's 1 point less for them, right? Are the consequences of my actions too great to overcome? We talked about the consequences, the positive and negative consequences earlier. At this point, when you're asking yourself if it's a good idea, after you've mapped it all out, and you got a pretty solid idea, you think, and now you're saying, is this really a good idea? Then, what are those consequences now? Is bringing the Americans into the war in 1941 worth all this? Or whatever the consequence of that action is it a good idea? That's really the ultimate factor. Is it a good idea? So then the last thing that I'm suggesting that you do, but of course this is subjective as well. If it's a real quick thing like I want to go take Malaya, you don't need to write all that down, right? But if it's a strategy like the one that I'm putting through that's going to take 6 or 7 turns for Germany, and mapping out my technology and everything for the beginning of the game, write it down. Keep track of what you're doing, but make sure that it's a book that's small enough to carry with you. Like a book this size here, a full-size book, probably not a good idea, because you're going to want to take that to the game with you. Whether that's at your house or somebody else's house, that's a big thing to be lugging around, and so you're not going to lug it around, right? And that leads me to my next point, is don't let anyone see what's in your book. So if you have to leave that book laying around, anybody, there's lots going on, there could be 4, 5, 6 people there, maybe there's some spectators too. Anybody could get a look at that book if it's that big and you have to leave it laying around. If you've got yourself a pocket big enough, then maybe this book might fit. Like I'm wearing a hoodie that has one of those big front pockets there, like a kangaroo. So this book will actually fit in it, right? That's something that I can keep with me. Like I don't want to be going outside and smoking some crack with the Russian player. Not that I would ever do that, I'm just kidding, right? But, like I don't want to go outside and do anything, or leave and get some food, or do anything, go to the bathroom and leave my book laying around. Sure, people shouldn't look at things, but they can. So if they go and take a look at your book, then they know what you're going to do, and obviously that's not a good idea. So if you write things down, though, you can plan a complex strategy ahead of time. You can write out the technology you need to do. You can write out details of what you're going to buy on every single turn, right? Try to stick to that. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to. Just because you wrote it down doesn't mean you have to do it that way. You're playing a particular game, so you want to make sure that what you're doing is right for that particular game, because your opponents might have something to say about that. The German strategy that I'm putting together is pretty easy, because nobody can possibly attack the Germans in the pre-war, and so that's something that is something you can do for just about any nation, is plan a pre-war strategy, something that takes you to 1939 or 1940. You can write out the whole thing, because nobody can do anything to you. I know nobody's going to be able to do anything to Germany. Germany actually has the same rules as Italy, where you can't attack them if they haven't attacked anybody else. So like if Germany doesn't do anything to anybody, they could go the whole game without getting attacked. But that's obviously not something you want to do, right? All I'm saying is, until Germany decides they want to tee off and punch the French player in the face, there's nothing you can do to Germany. Absolutely nothing. So you can map out everything you're going to do up to that point, including the buys. You know how much money you're getting, right? You know what you want to roll for technology. You can do it all, and you plan it ahead of time. You can do that 3 weeks ahead of time. You can do it a year ahead of time if you want. After the game is over, so you've got your whole strategy written down in this book and everything, and then you play it out, right? Record your results. You don't have to. I'm not saying that you have to. Sounds like I'm getting a little anal here. You really don't have to do that. You can write down as little or as much as you want. But if you have the book, why not do it, right? Like, make a note of how well your strategy works. Say, never do that again. That's all you have to write. Never do that again. Or worked well or something, right? You could also suggest things that you could do to improve that, like maybe I should have developed this technology instead, or maybe I'm going to need to buy one more tank and one less sub or something, right? More dudes, less tanks, whatever you think would have worked better. Just make a little note of it. You don't have to write a whole story, right? So you just make suggestions to yourself on how to improve that if you were ever to do it again. Like if this is a German strategy and 5 games from now you play Germany again, take a look at what you've done with Germany in the past, right? Again, you can write down as much or as little as you want about the game, but like just little things that you could do. You could list the victory points that were achieved, what the final score of the game was, the names of the players and who they played, because that might be helpful, right? If you know that Panzer King is a good common turn player, and next year you play and Panzer King's the common turn again, well, you kind of know, he's good at that, or maybe he's not good at that. I don't know. I don't think I have seen Panzer King play the common turn, but it was his first game and he got worked pretty hard. Anyway, we're not going to hack on him though. He's getting to be a much better player now. Like just a little note. Okay, this was the lineup. Here's the lineup of that game, and then you see the score and you think, okay, well, that guy's a good Axis player or he's not a good Axis player. I don't know if that's going to be helpful. You don't have to write that down. Like I said, write down as much as or as little as you want. And the other thing is write down anything else that you deem noteworthy from the game. Like I said with technology there, you could say, okay, you know what, this technology worked pretty well, right? Or maybe it didn't work. That's something you might want to make a note of. Strategic rockets, no. Like whatever it is you want to write down. But it doesn't have to be something from you. Like let's say you are playing Germany and Britain decides to attack or decides to develop attack transports. And holy shit, did that ever work good? Next time I play Britain, that's what I want to do. So make a quick note of that. Britain, attack transports, yes. Just a quick note, right? Anything little like that that stuck out in the game for you, just make a little note of it. So then when it comes time to play again, maybe you're going to play 2 months from now, take a quick note. Yeah, there was nothing in there about the British. Now, you don't have to. Maybe you've got an excellent memory. Maybe you don't have to worry about these kind of things. But me, with my advanced age, I'm in my 50s now, I tend to forget things a lot. But if I open it up, oh yeah, right, yeah, attack transports. I never would have thought they'd work for the Russians, but hey, they sure worked for Panzer King, Who knew, right? So that might be something I want to put in to my Russians if I'm playing with the Russians in that game, right? These are all things that can help make you a better player, and this is how you would build a comprehensive strategy. Like I said, you don't need to do all this stuff if all you're going to do is come down from Japan and attack Malaya, and it's going to take you 2 turns, right? I got to buy this shit this turn and move them this far, and the next turn I'm buying this stuff, and those guys can make it on that turn, and I'm going to attack Malaya. Nothing magical about that, right? But if you're going to do a 5 or 6 turn thing where you're going to decide what technologies you're using and all that, right? Helpful to write it all down. So let's just do a real quick review of what we went over so far. So you want to set your goals. What are your objectives? What sort of timeline are you looking at? Like does it have to be a hard timeline? Do you have lots of time to do it? Do you have to have it done yesterday? All these things you need to know. Most importantly, probably in the whole thing is, can I do this? Research everything you're going to need to do and determine the legality of it. And also the next thing is, what are the consequences of my actions? Like what are the penalties that I'm going to incur? What are the likely repercussions from my allies and opponents? Are they going to get 2 dice to roll for their peacetime income? What are the consequences? Just be aware of all of them. And then, what are my available resources? The current income and saved IPPs that you have, the units and income gained from annexation or conquest, income received over the course of the operation, and technology. What kind of technology do I have? What kind of technology am I going to go for, and what do I need, right? Is this a good idea? Ask yourself after you get a lot of the way into it. If you haven't arrived at that conclusion yet, ask yourself, is this a good idea? Weigh the risks versus the rewards, and very important, will it enhance my ability to win the game, or is it just going to be fun? That's something you really got to ask yourself. And then as an optional thing, like I said, you don't have to do this, but keep track of what you're doing. Write it down, record your results for reevaluation. To me, that seems like something that would be worthy of doing if you wanted to become a serious player in this game. Not that you can make money at it or anything like that, but it would be nice to be a good player that people respect and everything. And let's face it, I mean, this is a difficult game. This is not something that you can take lightly. It's not Risk. It's not checkers. It's much more complex than that. And the more you learn, the more details that you are aware of and that you employ in your game, the better you are going to be at this game. And just in the process of doing this, you become a better player. You begin to consider things that you maybe not consider. If you just show up at Bob's house this Wednesday and start a game and I'm going to be the Americans, okay, you're going to play and you're going to have fun and everything. But if you had a week ahead of time and you mapped everything out, just considering all these things, just considering the legalities of all the things that you want to do, it's going to make you more aware of what's going on in the game. The decisions that you make don't have to come like that at the snap of a finger. You've already considered these things, and people aren't standing there, come on, dude, I don't have all day. You know what I mean? You're there, you're ready, you make your play, and you've already considered all those actions. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful for you. I know just going through this process and making this video was helpful for me. It's taken me some time. I learned how to do some graphics, not just for this video, but for the next one. The graphics in the next video are way better than this one. But anyway, just learning things, it's been helpful for me, and I think it will be helpful for you if you try to use this plan that I've set forth in becoming a warrior. Just becoming a better player. So I'm going to leave you with that. Take care, everyone. General Hand Grenade out.